All right.
Welcome back to the Think Freight podcast. Thanks for joining us today. My guest is Tyler Harper. He's the co-founder over at Pinnacle Logistics. Tyler, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. So perfect week to do this. It's a little slow during Thanksgiving time, so it's a perfect opportunity to hop on and have a quick chat.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a really good conversation. I've heard a lot of interesting and cool things about Pinnacle. So when you got put on my radar, it was I was very excited to have this conversation. So I want to kind of set the scene with the audience so they can kind of understand who you are a little bit more, and kind of so I can know you a little bit more too. So who the heck is Tyler Harper? Where'd you grow up? What was life like before freight was even on your radar? Did you go to college? Did you play sports? What was life like back then?
Yeah, always interesting on where to start. So I born and raised in Arizona, so natural Phoenician, and grew up playing football, captain of the football team. Loved football my whole life, and went to ASU here. So actually was roommates and did an internship with one of my co-founders. And that's how we met in college, where we basically ran a residential house painting business. And pretty difficult program, but entrepreneurial based, where the people that made it through, you just bonded because it was a difficult program. But it taught a lot of amazing lessons. Like I wouldn't change it for anything. So met Nick there, and then straight out of college, started at a big box brokerage, and then freight's basically been my life ever since.
So how did you, so let me start here. So you went to ASU, did you play college football, or did you just play in like high school?
No, so I could have played at like a local JUCO, but I'm 5'11", 190. It wasn't in the cards for me to go play in the league. So
what are you talking about, man? That's a perfect cornerback right there.
Yeah, I didn't run a 4.40, so that was the challenge, right? So I wasn't the biggest or strongest or fastest guy, but had a lot of heart, loved the game. And so my year was like one of the last years that they had like the AIM scholarship here, where if you excelled in all those parts, you could get a full ride to ASU. So I had an educational scholarship. So took that, was like, that's the way to go. And basically I studied psychology and business in college. So growing up, loved psychology, loved business. Initially I wanted to be kind of a psychologist and therapist for people. I really loved kind of helping people work through their problems, and then realized that I love doing that for businesses as well, and just learned to grow and love business. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love logistics and supply chain so much, is you get to kind of peek back behind the curtain on so many businesses and really understand their process and see where you can help them solve problems.
So walk me through. So you said you graduated from ASU, and then you went and joined a big box broker. How'd that work? Were you just like got out of college, said, damn, I need a job, and started applying everywhere? Were you just like at a career fair at ASU and that's how they found you? What was that like process like, kind of finding logistics? And did you even like know what the heck you were going to be doing when you got into it?
Man, tough to remember exactly what I knew. So Nick had got onboarded at Global Trans. That was the big box in town, right? And so it was just they were hiring 30 college grads on the sales and carrier sales time each month, and then the top ones made it, and the ones that didn't. And it was kind of that classic cycle and machine, if you will. And Nick was one of the top carrier sales guys. He was like, "Hey, you should come check this out." He referred me in. I came and onboarded there, and that's where I got started in carrier sales. And I had sales experience, and so loved sales. I was always in sales since I was about 16, and was one of the good performing rep. I was like the youngest Triple Crown salesman at Journeys, and was slanging shoes and socks back in the day. And carrier sales was fun because it was like you're selling, but you have the business for the carriers, so it's even easier.
Exactly. And a lot of times, like when you especially once you get into the flow of it, you've got like routine carriers you're using all the time, so you can book things really quickly, and you can run up your numbers in carrier sales pretty quickly if you like really work and you have the right like mindset on how to book freight. And it sounds like you guys like really just took like that initiative, and also just like had a lot of fun with like the freight side of it, but also like how fun like some big box brokers can be, and like how competitive they can be, and like they really there's just like a lot of like team camaraderie that like I feel like, especially coming out of college, feels very like still kind of college-esque and kind of like in that flow, but also you're like doing a big boy job, and you're like making money. You're doing beer jobs probably on Fridays. Like you're having a lot of fun, but you're also making money, and you're feeling, you're kind
Yeah.
of feeling that camaraderie.
All of that, yeah, all of that was definitely a part of it, and loved the competition. Loved, was on the Midwest van team, and the two other hires before me, we called ourselves the Dog Pound, and we were competing every day. So that was a lot of
That's
fun,
awesome.
and it was kind of like a video game, right? Like you've got the TMS, you've got the platform, you're matching up carriers all day, and it's just about you making relationships and trying to grow your book. And so, yeah, I definitely love that. Definitely, after every single call was saving contacts of every carrier I talked to and what states they ran, and like building that whole book. And that was the game for, the early part of my career.
Tyler, if I met you 10 years ago and you said, and I said to you, you're going to start your own brokerage one day, or even less than 10 years ago, maybe when you started Global Trans, and I said, hey, you're going to start your own brokerage one day, what do you think you would have said?
Oh man, I would have said, what are you talking about? What's a brokerage? First of all, and then, yeah, I would have said, well, sounds like it could be interesting, but what actually are you going to do? How are you actually going to scale something up and provide value to shippers? What difference
Yeah.
are you actually going to make in the marketplace?
So fast forwarding a little bit, you were at Global Trans for like around a year. You've been to a couple other places. I believe I saw Amino, and then you were like an operations manager for a couple of years, which also ultimately led to the founding of Pinnacle. So let's fast forward a little bit. You've ended up building Pinnacle with Nick, with your co-founders. From my understanding, you guys are a debt-free company. You guys are
Yep.
coming up on like around 4 years. I want to talk about like how this thing really started, because obviously you guys met in college. You guys had been working together for a while. But like, what's the start? What's the founding story behind Pinnacle? Like, what was maybe the tip of the iceberg, or that turning point that made you say, let's start a brokerage, or what, you and Nick decided to start a brokerage, or how did those conversations start?
Yeah, so back at when I was operations manager and I worked alongside Nick, we had a total autonomy on running one of the largest agencies for one of the world's logistics leaders, right? And so we managed that entire operations team for one of the largest agencies. And Vincent, our other co-founder, was the sales guy who was responsible for a ton of the growth for that company. And before Pinnacle, we were basically three guys that were in essence running that company. We weren't owners on paper, but we treated it like we were, and we were compensated accordingly, right?
Yeah.
And so the path there was to earn our way into ownership, and that was the game plan. That's what we were working towards. And then the owners sold. That happened, and we were told that everything should stay the same from a day to day. And then about a week after the sale, before everything was finalized, we had an HR call, and they mentioned, "Oh, you're going to be signing non-competes and non-solicits," which our owners vehemently didn't believe in. And so, as the three highest paid guys in the organization, and you're left with a non-compete where if there's a reorg or a restructure, we wouldn't be able to work in freight anymore and provide for our families. And that just seemed like a risk that we couldn't take. And so very quickly within that week, it was just, all right, I guess we're starting a brokerage. And we made pretty much the toughest decision that we've ever made in our careers. And we decided to walk away and start new. Right. And so, we left with one book, three founders, left a lot of business on the table that we could have definitely chased after, but intentionally just left with Vincent's book that we had built and started. And that became the foundation of everything we built today at Pinnacle.
Man, that's a very interesting and very like grind it all out kind of like scenario, right? Like, I mean, you're really like in the mindset of like, okay, we've just been sold, nothing's going to change according to our past owners, and a week in, it's everything's changing. And yeah, I mean, I fully agree with that decision, right? Because I was under a non compete. I started a big box broker, TQL, and I had a non compete for a year. This is when it was. I think they're still under a year, maybe 2 years now at TQL. But I was had a year non compete, and it was honestly very frustrating because even though had no interest in going after my previous customers, I wanted to stay in the business. I wanted to continue what I
Yeah.
was doing because I loved the industry so much. So I found ways to not get around, but like I found different areas that I could contribute wise until my non compete was out, and then I got right back into freight because this is an industry that I truly love. What I want to ask you, so you guys took one book, 3 founders. What were those first like 3 to 6 months like? What were those like? Were there any of those like what the hell are we doing kind of moments? Like what was
Yeah, for
what?
sure. And just to recap on that a little bit, like non-solicits, I totally get. You can't steal what you
Absolutely.
didn't build, right? But a non-compete that's really broad and oversweeping to where you spend almost a decade of your whole career in this business, and then you have to figure out something else to do, and you don't have any skills or assets to bring anywhere else. It's just something that I don't really believe in the industry in general. But
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, so we started there. The first 3 to 6 months were working out of Vincent's house, and it was just do or die. Got to make it or break it. And at that time, it was kind of post COVID and the supply chain madness of COVID, and we had already done Mexico logistics before, and so having a base there was really helpful in terms of like the verticals that we're big in. A lot were switching their supply chain to Mexico.
Yeah.
And basically, we had a few customers that didn't want to come on board. And then 2 weeks later, were calling us because things weren't going the way that they were supposed to. Now that the people that actually knew how to operate their business weren't there anymore. And I basically retaught myself Spanish from a few college classes and managed our whole Mexico operations and built that out to the specifications and the challenges of Mexico logistics. And that was kind of the first big boot camp that we had into messy, complex freight that had special parameters. And so that was a season of working nonstop, basically every night, because most Mexico shippers and providers reach out at like 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And you're crossing the border at night with docks before the border closes. And so basically I was on call 24/7 for the first probably 24 months that we started.
So you guys had done Mexico before. So what was the like thought? Like, were you guys thinking, okay, we're gonna just kind of dive into everything that we know from previous spots? Or what was the thought process between what you guys were going to do differently with Pinnacle, but also like obviously in those first 3, 6, 9, 12 months, you've also got to start becoming profitable because you don't want to lose what you've built for your family so far. So like what was that like? I mean, you guys I know have your big focus is Mexico right now. I believe LTL, drayage, and I believe multi-stop truckload.
Yeah,
Okay.
those are the big ones. Yep, nailed it. Yeah, so I think Mexico was the big focus because there was a huge influx because of the supply chain and tariffs space. And there was a lot of people in the furniture industry and Chinese companies trying to come and start manufacturing in Mexico. And you kind of have this cultural divide between US retailers and their expectations and Chinese manufacturers and their expectations and Mexico's work and their expectations, right? And kind of bridging that gap between all of those became really clear that we could bring a lot of value in that sector. And so that is a lot of what we did because managing the customs and getting people set up is people think that Mexico should be a lot easier on the trade than Canada, but it's actually not true. It's actually a lot more complicated to get set up to import into Mexico. And so we were just able to bridge that gap, if you will, of the cultural differences and service it a lot better. And that kind of allowed us to grow really significantly to where we were handling a significant portion of all the mattresses and furniture from Mexico to the U.S. while that was a pretty hot sector. And then it became, we've always just believed that if you want to just do one pick, one drop, simple freight, RFP the same lane 500 times, like you're going to have the TQLs and the CHs and people that you can just put on an RFP and do that process. We wanted to find really unique ways that we could bring value to organizations. That was one of them, and then it became clear that consolidation and LTL was another section that of business where we could do that.
Yeah, I wanted to. What I think is really interesting is you guys touch on a lot of freight that, when I was at a big box, or what I hear from a lot of people online, is considered, ugly freight. Mexico, LTL, multi-stop truckload, drayage. Like no one, when you, at least in the last, maybe 5 years, people weren't talking so much about the specific niches. They were, hey, go into reefer, go into van freight, go into this. But you guys have really segmented yourself into, hey, we're going to be truckload, but multi-drop. We're going to be consolidate, drayage, LTL, and Mexico, and we're going to do those things extremely well, and we're gonna make ourselves be like a leader in these spaces. I think that's really unique in terms of like how you're building it, right? Because again, like you said, a lot of the big companies, the CH, the TQLs, they're going after like the 1-in-1s, maybe the 1-in-2s if they're getting a little crazy, right? They're going after the RFP stuff, they're going after the contract stuff. Sounds like you guys are going to like a lot of the spot freight, a lot of the hey, we have an immediate need kind of freight.
Yeah, and I think just again, technology is going to streamline a lot of that. And as a broker, you should, and all businesses are paid based on the value that they can bring a company. And what real value are you bringing on one pick, one stop, simple freight that's mostly automated,
Yeah.
right? And so, if you're trying to be profitable, yeah, you want to give your customers great pricing, but you also need to do something valuable for the business. And so, in all those modes, there's different league magnets or ways that we can provide value that help shippers kind of get an enterprise level service and enterprise level pricing that's typically not available for your SMBs and mid market shippers. And that's really where our focus has been. And that's kind of mainly what we've seen as kind of the Mexico hype has died off, where we see that most in LTL. We really believe that's the most underserved mode or market, if you will, in transportation.
I want to dive into that more, LTL, because I actually fully agree with that, because when I was at TQL, I mean, just to be frank, this was 2017-ish. I was dissuaded from looking for LTL freight. Like if I had someone on the phone, they said, yeah, I just moved LTL freight. Great. Have a great day. Like we were pretty much we didn't want to touch it. And then there became a push around mid 2018 into 2019 where, hey, we wanted to start touching more LTL. We started to get more contracts with the bigger LTL providers to have a bigger, discount and to be able to service LTL better. But for a long time, we just didn't even touch it. And I always felt like, okay, like if there's freight there, like we should be trying to go after it. What made you guys say, hey, we're going to go after LTL? And what segment or what size segment is LTL in your guys' like portfolio right now?
Yeah, so a year ago, LTL was 3%, maybe 4% of our overall book. And last month it was 32% of
Oh,
our
wow.
book, right? So we really focused on it as a core mode that we wanted to dial in on. And the reason is because we really believe that it's drastically underserved and the bar for service is so low,
So low.
right? The number of reweighs, reclasses, disputes, variances, rebills, whatever you want to call it, on average is like 30% across all shipment count, right? And so, so many shippers just eat that as the cost of doing business, or that just goes with the mode, or it's not worth going and fighting for these dollars and back and these cents back on these tiny little margins and shipments, or they're overcharged by their broker or carrier, and those people just quietly absorb those charges for them, right? And so it's like, rather than us just saying, hey, we have good service and good pricing, it became, what can we offer shippers that actually help solve this problem for them and give them something tangible that can help them solve this issue? And that's what ultimately became LTL Flow and our free app for shippers.
So I want to dive into that. So what is LTL Flow? That sounds pretty interesting, because I mean, most people are saying, hey, like again, they're diving into the cost aspect or whatever it may be. I can save you money, but you guys built a whole like shipper tool. So like that's very unique. So like I guess, how did you guys decide to do this? Like what was the overall like, what was, I guess, the decision behind that, but also like, why build your own tool as opposed to like, I don't know, just like not, I guess, just keeping it all in house, or like, white labeling something, or even just like, I I guess, how did you come to
Tell
this
them the
solution, I
TMS.
guess? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. We kept asking ourselves, like, where are our customers hurting the most? Where are they bleeding the most? And
Yeah.
consistently, the answer became LTL, right? Because again, there's such a high percentage of shipments that have a rebill. We'll just call it for simple terms, where your invoice doesn't match the quote,
Yep.
right? And so it became obvious to us, like, if we could help solve that to shippers, we can be more than just a standalone broker that gives you good pricing, right? And
Right.
so LTL Flow is a standalone web app, and it's everything. Most providers are looking at things once a shipment has booked. Once measurements and weights have been entered into the system and that shipment is live, now let's analyze pricing and look at things post shipment. That whole app is designed pre-shipment to help automate and streamline that process. So it helps them weigh, document, take photos super easily of all their photos, and basically eliminate all handwriting and guesswork and ideally tape measures at the right level, so that they can get clean data up front and remove human error out of the equation. And that good data will then result in having less reweighs, reclasses, rebills, all those things.
That's really awesome. What, I guess, how do shippers respond when you say, "Hey, I'm not just a broker, but we've got this LTL flow tool that can help in different ways"? How do they respond when they first hear that or see that in action?
Yeah, I think it's a great conversation starter for us, right? That's how it started, is like a lead magnet, if you will. It's just, oh, that's interesting,
Absolutely.
right? In fact, most of the time the reaction is, oh, we already have a TMS. We already have a broker. And I'm like, no, this is not a TMS. This is not, everybody has a TMS. They've had it for 10 years. I understand. This is where you can store all your shipment data, regardless of provider, in the cloud for free. And you get good, clean data and good photos for any claims or disputes that you have, regardless of who the provider is, right? And so that right there is just a great conversation starter. And then it's kind of the first step in our multi-step process of what I would call like Pinnacle playbook. And once they onboard that into our Grand Slam offer, it allows us to offer guaranteed no reweighs, no reclasses, and we guarantee all of those things, that essentially their invoice is going to match their quote. And then any disputes that happen, we already have all the proof and documentation from LTL Flow. So we go fight that good fight on behalf of the customers, and they're not having to spend hours going back and forth with their broker or their provider trying to claw back these charges.
Man, I mean, that's definitely like such a time saver for them, because I mean, I remember when TQL started getting into LTL, we were basically told, like, the first 6 months were basically, okay, we're gonna build in any potential reweighs or rebills into our initial costs. So like, you're gonna
Yep.
charge on, I'm just going to give you an example. Like Estes gives us a $300 rate. We're going to tell them it's 800 just in case we have any issues, right? And then we would tell them, hey, you're not going to get a rebill for this. Well, it became pretty unprofitable for us because a lot of times there were other issues that would pop up. There were other brokers who were not quoting high enough, because we had obviously, I'm sure you know, Tyler, it's a cradle to grave. You have a lot of control over your own pricing. So a lot of times there was just not enough, brokers not putting enough padding in there to actually cover potential reweighs or issues. And so they went into more of the, hey, we're going to put just like a $50 or $100
Like
on
minimum
it,
upcharge. Yeah.
minimum upcharge, and then if there's a reweigh, we're charging it back to the customer. So I saw kind of the different evolutions, and I'm not sure what they do now. I'm sure it's changed since then. But yeah, it's very interesting to see how different players operate, and how they react to these, and how much time it can take when you're dealing with shippers and talking about, hey, I'm sorry, I told you 550, it's actually 975 now. And it, you're going back and forth, you're starting to lose maybe a little bit of trust, or with your shipper when you're going through those kind of things. So I think that that's a real unique way you can differentiate yourself from
Yeah.
just a
Yeah, and you
traditional
just nailed
brokerage.
like the two things, right? It's either like we overpad on the upfront and you pay more for every single shipment so that we don't have to pass these bills along to you, or the flip side of that is carriers, brokers, whoever use it as a revenue generation tool. Like, hey, you, Mr. Customer, gave me the wrong measurements. You gave me the wrong weight. Here's your reweigh or reclass bill. Here's my margin added on top. That's how
Yep,
I can make my extra money, right? And so no
exactly.
one's truly incentivized to solve that issue for the shipper before they book, right? Because their
Yeah.
incentive is more revenue, more cost. That's all on the shipper. right? Where we're trying to lower rev, which is, antithetical to ideally what we'd want, but we want strong long-term partnerships, right? And that's where you can provide real value and data in terms of carrier selection and in terms of, reducing all that human error in that manual process. And then you can get a little bit stickier with the customers and be a real partner in the long term.
Now, you guys have also gotten very specialized, like we talked about, in like multi-stop consolidation. And I think that this is a kind of good segue into from LTL, because this multi-stop consolidation, furniture freight, those kind of things, they're considered such like messy freight, like we were talking about earlier. No one ever wants to deal with it. Why do you think that those shippers who are dealing with these, multi-pick, multi-drop consolidation freight, heavy, messy freight, why is that such a strong fit for you guys? Why do you guys really like I go after that really messy freight that no one wants to go after? Like, is there something that you guys just really love about like all the messy logistics of these? Like, I think I love them personally. I used to do a lot of produce mixers that were like 5-pick, 11 drop, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I love those kind of things. So I feel I feel like I understand from your aspect, but I'm curious, like, what drives you guys to go after those kind of shippers?
Yeah, it's a great question. Again, I think it's the more complex, messy, quote unquote, you can get, the more creative you can get in terms of solutions, right? The more customized and nuanced that you can make it for a certain shipper. And we are really big in the furniture and mattress vertical. It's a huge sector of business for us. And that just became apparent that was more of a need in that sector because it's big, bulky freight that's awkward sizes. A lot of times, if you have upholstery, it doesn't fit cleanly for LTL pricing, right?
Right.
If they ship a pallet of a sofa that costs $600 and shipping the pallet costs $300, that kills the whole deal for them. They just can't they can't close the deal when freight is 50% of the charge, right? And so on the flip side of that, there's a market of specialized furniture carriers that are like traditional LTL carriers, but just focus on furniture. The challenge with that, especially when things were, pumping and the business was good, is they're still transloading that like LTL. So you're transloading floor loaded furniture. So your damages is not the best, right? And then because there's not as much saturation or density of that market, you have more extended transit times, right? So you're still going terminal to terminal to terminal. You're getting, at that time it was 4 to 8 weeks of transit time. Your damages is higher, and it's really not even that inexpensive, right? And so that was where we were designing custom and have custom manufacturing process. We would take all their order data and consolidate it into 5 to 12, we did as high as like 30 stops on box trucks or 53 vans, where we would go direct to their dealers, right? So no transload right from the dock. You'd have basically, essentially no damages. Let's say less than 1% damages because you're going direct. And it's more cost effective because you don't have all these stops, all this labor, all the warehouse infrastructure, all of that. And so for the right furniture manufacturer that had enough volume, that became really, really appealing and a huge, they got better pricing, lower damages, and faster transit. What else could you ask for?
It sounds like it almost sounds too good to be true, right? Like, and I was going to ask you like how you guys built out that network, and it sounds like you guys just like you said, you used a lot of box trucks, 53 dry vans, and just loaded up the stops. Hey, we're gonna do 15, 25 stops, and it's gonna be a lot more efficient for the customer. Now let me ask you this. I remember doing a lot of produce mixers, and obviously produce and dry van freight are different, but multi-stop, you get a lot of people who say absolutely not. I'm not doing 10 stops. No, not doing 5 stops. How do you guys, I guess, find your carriers, and how difficult was building out some of those networks to have some of these carriers that actually want to do some of this freight?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that just comes with time. If you do something for 10 years, you're going to build out a network. And so there was no magic pill that we just found the right carriers overnight, right? We just built that out slowly over time and have continued to build out that network. And in terms of the too good to be true, like, to be frank, the downside of it is it does take cooperation from that manufacturer or shipper, right? Because they have to. Absolutely. The benefit of not having to do that is I just load a drop trailer whenever it's ready. I don't have to stage anything. I don't have to store anything. It is easier from an operational dock workflow perspective, right? It's just more expensive, worse service to your customer, and more damages.
Yeah.
So it does take opt-in and buy-in from that warehouse operationally, and we do a lot of things to try to make that as easy as possible, color coding the stops and the product and all of that. And we have a bunch of tools and tricks, if you will, to help make that easier. But that's the trade-off, right? Is it does take opt-in and buy-in from the warehouse, but if they're willing to take that on, the results and the benefits are there. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, and to touch on something we were talking about a little bit earlier is why a lot of people don't want to deal with this, right? I think a lot of it comes down to something you said earlier is you're on call a lot. There's a lot of times when there may be a stop where something doesn't go right and things have to get rearranged at the last second, and you're the one who has to deal with it. And there's a lot of people who just don't want to deal with the headache of, they get to a stop at 4 p.m. and they can't unload him. What are we going to do with all this furniture? Well, you're going to probably go to the next stop if they're going to be open. You just have to find those solutions, right? And a lot of people, they think, man, if I've got 15 stops, that's 15 different chances for errors, a lot of different pickup. Maybe it's a multi-pick from 2 different warehouses. The warehouse picks aren't ready. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and people don't want to deal with some of those headaches. And honestly, it sounds like you guys have really just leaned into the headache, become the headache solvers, and found solutions to make the headaches not such a big headache, but also just like a really pain relieving point if the shipper and manufacturer want to solve some true issues and not just deal with the 40 to 50% damages and things like that on their freight with the traditional way.
Yeah, I think part of that is we've just taken that all on for the shipper, right? Like we just handle all the scheduling, all the communication for you. And part of that is just case studies and again, experience doing it. I don't want to misquote, but it's like we've delivered to over 3,000 or 4,000 retailers in the United States. So for most manufacturers, or let's say a new manufacturer's trying to close a new retailer or a new RTO chain that they haven't worked with before, a lot of times we've already delivered to all their locations. We're very familiar with that retailer. We know their hours. We know that, it's going to a small retailer in Arkansas, and Susie's husband does the deliveries on Wednesday, and they can't take deliveries on Wednesday. And we need to plan for that in the routing, right? So a lot of it is just building like ironclad SOPs and operational strength to manage that for the company. And that kind of leads into our strengths, right? Because we have about 30 people on staff and only 2 salespeople. So that's where having ops beefed up and ready to go is super beneficial.
Wait, you said you have 30 ops people and 2 salespeople?
We have 30 people in the company, roughly, probably a little bit over that, and we have 2 salespeople.
Wow, that's that's pretty incredible, honestly. So who are your 2 salespeople, and what is that like sales structure look like? How have you guys scaled to where you guys are today with only 2 salespeople?
Yeah, so
did you hire 10 people? Did you like pull a TQL? Did you fire 10 people? Hired them all? What did you do here?
That would be the opposite. Yeah, we've made a totally different bet than most 3PLs. Most brokerages scale by hiring an army of salespeople, and then ops just has to figure it out and fill in that need that they sell to, right? And we started, 2 of our founders were ops people, myself and Nick, and then Vincent was our 1 salesperson. Still to this day, Vincent's responsible for roughly over 80% of our overall gross profit. And so we've just built kind of like filled in that engine of really strong operations, really strong account management, onboarding, and then plugged in really selective killer salespeople into that machine, right? And so we have Vincent who's still doing that. And then our 1 other salesperson, Shane, is a good, point of reference for that system, right? He's 9 months into the business. He's new in freight, but he's doing 5 figures of GP monthly right now, which is pretty good in comparison to most sales reps, and in the good range of that too. And that's because he's got, basically an operationalized fulfillment operations engine that he can plug into, where he doesn't have to worry if a customer is going to get good service, if the load's going to get booked, if we're going to know how to handle that customer and their needs, right? All of that is properly handed off, and we're properly staffed on the operations side, that where churn is like our biggest strength, right? If we can get a customer, chances are we're going to keep that customer, and chances are we're going to grow with that customer over time. And that's kind of fundamentally how we're built out, and we've been able to scale based off of two salespeople.
Man, that's really awesome. I mean, it really goes to show that, I think that most brokerages really underestimate how much shippers value creativity and flexibility as opposed to just like having this giant engine of 50 salespeople. And you guys are showing that, like, hey, we have two salespeople. We've got, the rest is all operations and the rest of our team to make sure that the customer experience is top notch. And I think that really goes to show, it really goes to show what you guys are doing and how you guys are doing things differently.
Thanks, I appreciate it. And a big part of that too is like we're so heavy in certain verticals that like our brand is everything. So the
Yeah.
last thing I want to do is go hire 20 sales guys, 15 of them get fired after month one or two, and
Yep.
they've gone and burned a bunch of relationships or bridges because they didn't know what they were doing and they overpromised and underdelivered, right?
Yep.
And so we've spent most of our time building out our sales, like our operations, our process, and our offers to really make sure that it is bringing, like I said, real tangible value to shippers. And so Shane's been focusing on selling LTL consolidation, our same modes, and it's been really successful. And one of the big parts of that too is like the cuboid and that part being in LTL Flow as well, and what that does for shippers. So I didn't really mention that too, but the other part of that LTL Flow app is we have it embedded into a handheld dimensioner. And so rather than a shipper using a tape measure, kind of guesstimating and estimating how wide or how tall a pallet is, especially if you have big, bulky, awkward items, it's hard to eyeball
Right.
that. They can take a photo of each side of the pallet and it dimensions it in under 30 seconds. And it's more accurate than a person is with a tape measure.
That's really awesome. I mean, honestly, because again, it goes to show like what you guys are thinking of and how you guys are going about taking out the human error aspect, right? I mean, it's very easy for a human I remember when I was doing some work for a mom and pop shipper here in Houston, and there's so many things that go into it when you say, hey, go out and grab me the measurements of that pallet or this item, and the guy comes back and gives it to you, and it's 7 or 8 inches different in different areas because he takes the measurement, right, but then he's talking to 3 other people on his way back. He's got the numbers in his head, and
Yep.
then that number can change, and then by the time it gets to Tyler, it gets to me, it gets to whoever it may be, that number is different. The manager writes it down a half inch differently. He tells them at 4 inches differently. Everything's screwed up. The weight is off, and this way again, you're taking some of that human error right out of it. As long as they can take pictures of it, you guys are solid.
Yeah. We want to get rid of handwriting completely, right? Because
Yeah,
you just nailed the whole process of like, okay, I measure it and then, okay, yeah, it's 50 by 50. Okay, 50 by 55. Like it's all in their head. And then once they're done, they write it down, right? And even if they're great, like you're just going to have
there's going to be
1 to
those.
4% of that time, it's going to be off, right? And you're
Yep.
writing 3 things down, 4 things down, length, width, height, weight. And then you've got to handwrite that down. That has to go to the person in the office. They have to read that handwriting correctly,
Yep.
which isn't always the most legible. And then they need to go type that into the system correctly,
Yeah.
right? So you've got 4 chances, 4 different things for human error. That's like 16 to 30% chance of human error of something being a little bit off. And that's all it takes.
Well, and what's nice is this tool also, it keeps both your sales team but also your operations team from having to go through and talk to all your shippers about reweighs, having to go through and confirm all the different pallet sizes and all the different sizes of all the different furniture and things like that, big bulky items that you guys are moving. It's a lot simpler than having to send 5 different emails confirming the height, weights, and then getting 3 different measurements back because actually Tommy in the warehouse is an idiot and he wrote everything wrong, so it's actually these dimensions. Can you give us a new price? And everything
Yeah.
changes, right? So it takes that human error right out of it.
Yeah. It streamlines that whole process. And then also, it like one of the hidden benefits is like there's an extra layer of quality assurance in the process too, right? Because
Yeah.
now the person who's booking that shipment, they get an email with photos of the exact pallet ready to go. So whether it's specific banding that you want done or corner protectors or you're prepping for a special big box retailer that wants it done a certain way, that person now gets one more set of eyes on the pallet before it ships out, right? And so
Yeah.
that's been kind of one of the hidden benefits, training people, storing those great examples to train people in the warehouse. All of that's right there and it's easily accessible at any time.
Something you had mentioned, Tyler, about your sales team and when you guys like onboard a client, you had mentioned, if you guys onboard someone, they're you feel like they're less likely to churn with you guys. How do you guys balance that retention and diving deeper into their book and moving more of their freight, right? Like I feel like a lot of companies will get into 3 or 4 or 5 lanes and then kind of stop pushing to get more or to take more of their business. So like, how do you guys balance, I guess, the retention and also prospecting new business?
Great question. I think we always want to, like most brokers, we want to provide value and prove that we can do a great job in one specific mode first. And then once you've built trust and they've experienced your service and experienced the difference,
Yeah.
then you're open to having more conversations. And right now for us, that most oftentimes starts with LTL Flow, starts with LTL. It's fundamentally different experience than they have with every other provider. Aside from getting the app pre-shipment, there's all the post-shipment stuff, the daily updates that they get on all exceptions for all their shipments. There's all the data reporting we do, like the least cost carrier report, the variance reports, a lot of different things that we do on like the QBR data side where we're giving shippers data to make better decisions around their freight spend. And so that is like typically services that enterprise level shippers get when they're doing thousands and thousands of shipments with people. And we're trying to take that same experience and give it to SMBs, right? And so when they experience that, you kind of just change the relationship and the trust level there. And then we're able to talk more about, okay, hey, what else are you guys doing? Hey, let's take a look at drayage. Let's take a look at truckload. Let's see what else is there for you guys. And then part of it's just being honest, right? Like it's not, if they send over a list of truckload lanes and they're getting some fire rate from some incumbent that's been doing a great job for 10 years, it doesn't mean that we go try to match the rate and then try to make it profitable a year later and earn that business. It's no, that's a great rate. You should keep that incumbent, keep that, right? Let's look at where we can actually do a good job for you guys. Yes, save you money, give you great service. Or is there something else service wise that you're not getting that we can go make sure we fulfill on, and we're giving value in some other way where we're either saving you time, giving you visibility, or saving you money. It's got to be somewhere that you're getting something.
No, I love that approach, Tyler, honestly, because I think a lot of people, again, they try to push too heavy on, hey, I know that, hey, this lane is you're having fire service on it, your rates have been good. But hey, we can do it better, right? And you come in at $50 or $100 less than the other carrier, and ultimately over time, like, yeah, you can service the lane well, but you're probably going to lose money. And again, I think that, again, trying to creep that up incrementally, I just think it's an outdated tactic, and you can really find other lanes, other areas of opportunity to help them with actual needs and actual service failures, instead of just taking a lane to take a lane where there really isn't anything that you could maybe do better in terms of servicing that lane, right?
Yeah, totally. It's identifying where there's needs and where there's a fit, and being okay if there's not, right? Instead of trying to be everything to everyone.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys. So you guys started off as a pretty small company. Um, do you think that you guys are still a small company? Do you think the you guys staying small, staying lean, has put you guys in a winning position because you guys can pivot a lot faster than like a TQL or a CH or one of these big boys?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we're able to pivot, strategize, and build out, what I would call custom solutions a lot quicker than just about anybody else. And we can pool together our resources and leadership and just kind of drive in that direction and go. For instance, LTL Flow, that was an idea like a year ago from today. And so it's gone from this idea to then this web app that was like decent to then, we're rolling out new updates every single week to it being integrated into dimensioning software, right? And so it's totally fundamentally like transformed our go-to-market strategy and one of our core solutions and offers in a pretty short amount of time. And so I would say being nimble and being able to pivot is definitely one of our strengths.
Where do you see the future of tools like that? Do you think that that's like an area where more brokers need to find areas or find ways that they can build these kind of simple tools? And so I wouldn't say simple, but like these tools and solutions to help their shippers, as opposed to the model we've seen over the last maybe 10 or 15 years is just like going after everything and not really solving the underlying problems that they're having.
Yeah, I think the market is becoming more transparent over time through technology and through giving shippers access to the same technology that brokers have. And I think trying to hide behind opaqueness and fight that fight, just you're on the losing side of the battle. So you might as well embrace it and create technology that can help shippers and bring them value, even if it doesn't mean that you win 100% of the freight.
Do you something I think is interesting, and do you guys, if a shipper say doesn't necessarily, I guess let me rephrase this. If is LTL Flow a like app that only shippers who are shipping with you guys can utilize, or if they say, hey, I want to utilize LTL Flow but give tender my freight to a TQL, does that work, or like how does that work, I guess?
Yeah, it still works, right? So
Okay.
LTL Flow is, for now, I mean, to be honest, we've considered charging for it, not
Yeah.
because I want to make money on it, but because I actually think more shippers might utilize it and get benefit from it because when they pay for it, they see the value in it. Because I
Yeah.
know it's valuable. I know it's saved 4 to 6% of freight spend just in eliminating rebills for people without even touching rates, right? Like we know the value it brings. It's just getting that into the hands of more shippers, right? But there's plenty of enterprise shippers that we work with right now where they might have a couple of direct carriers, right? And then we're that broker that fills in all the gaps in that network. And we handle 30, 40, 50% of the shipments, maybe 60%. And then another percentage goes to those direct carriers. They still get LTL Flow and the cuboid if they qualify, right? To get a free cuboid from us, all we need to win is 50 shipments a month. So for an enterprise
Gotcha.
shipper, that's like nothing,
That's
right?
easy. Yeah.
So they can use the cuboid and get handheld dimensioning, reduce their labor time, get all those benefits on all their shipments, right? They get LTL Flow for all shipments, regardless of who the provider is. And then
Nice.
our guarantee of the no reweighs, no reclasses, all that, obviously we can only guarantee that if we're the ones booking the shipment because we're the one
Absolutely.
absorbing the charges, right?
Yep.
And so it just allows us to make our offer what I would call like a grand slam offer, but they get access to it regardless of if we're the sole provider or not.
I love that. Tyler, I want to pivot a little bit because we are running a little bit lower on time. I want to kind of touch on your leadership style because I think that this is such an interesting point in how people evolve their leadership over the years. So I want to ask you, what did leader Tyler look like day one, year one versus today? Like how are you leading, and how do you create buy-in with such a lean team?
Ooh, tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think year one Tyler was, I think like most let's say above average either sales reps or carrier sales reps, day one Tyler was put the team on my back and I'll just do all the work. I'll
Yeah.
just outwork everybody else and I'll just make sure that there's no problems, no issues, and I will just take on as much of it as I possibly can,
Yeah.
and then outsource very little, right? Where now, just due to necessity, we've had to learn how to leverage and outsource certain tasks to people and build in a team of culture of buy-in. And I think that comes with like proclaiming and stating what our culture is at Pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
What our ethos is, right? Speed is king, and measuring those kind of key KPIs. Like the number one thing that we measure as a company is how fast our response time is, right? And it's like under
Absolutely.
15 minutes on average for the US ops team for things that require an answer, right? The data
Yep.
gets a little fluffy on that because sometimes you're in like a multi email chain and like you're not the person that needs to respond, and you can't get super clean data on that. But when
Yeah.
it's one to one customer, it's like less than 15 minutes, right? So track the things that matter, have our core ethos of speed is king, put the customer first, everything else will work itself out. And then I think we've done a great job of finding the best talent that we can for key positions here in the US,
Yeah.
and then having great leadership teams and stuff overseas as well, right? So we do outsource into the Philippines. We have a great team there. And then we have all key management leadership positions filled here in the US. And I think I have to give kudos to Nick to that. I think a lot of like Nick's content and what he posts about has attracted a lot of top level talent to our organization.
Yeah.
And he's done a great job creating buy-in from that team, and he really manages the operations team. So kudos to him for that. But he's a great leader, and he's very clear on what outcomes and what we want and what we're striving for as an organization. And thankfully, we've built a great team that can kind of fulfill on that vision.
How tough is it leading both both a U.S. and an outsourced team that is remote? Because I hear this a lot that some leaders think it's very difficult to lead both or to lead to have outsourced operations at all. How do you guys look at that? How do you guys lead both teams?
That's a great question. That is definitely more of a question for Nick, but I think it's just we do a lot of different unique things that are camaraderie based with the Philippines team. It's not like they're just treated as some separate company or branch. They are a part of that team. They are
Yeah.
in our chats, in our IMs every day. We have like each division leader with their people on their team has weekly calls with those team members, and
Yeah.
even just like a social hour at the end of the day on Fridays where they just hang out on call and talk and get to know each other. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of like culture, team building things aside from just working day in and day out that gets built. And then we also do what we can to embrace and help the people there, right? Like there's been a
Yeah.
lot of storms in the Philippines and there's a lot of hurricanes that have happened. And we've sent a lot of help that way to our team and sent money to people on our team and enabled them to go out and help people and kind of, I don't know, I guess I don't really call it create brand awareness, but they're just out there trying to help people.
Yeah.
And we just show that we actually care about them, as simple as that sounds. They're human beings and we care about them and they're an important part of our team and an important part of our process. And our actions just need to reflect that.
Yeah, just kind of bringing them in and treating them no differently than you would a team in Indiana or a team in Texas, right? You treat them the exact same way, and you build that social connection, that social buy-in, that social network and branch to them, right? Because again, when you do have those outsourced teams, they can feel disconnected
Yeah.
if you're not feeling and showing them the same level of treatment and respect and care that you do your US teams. I want
Yeah,
to
not
ask
just
you.
that, and they got to know that like what they do matters, right?
Absolutely.
Like what they
Yeah.
do really matters, and it makes a big difference in our team and our company,
Yeah.
right? And so they're reminded of that, brought into that, and then you have to manage it and measure things and all that good stuff too. But
Absolutely.
just having people know that they're not just
A cog in the machine, a
they're not just
number.
a cog in the machine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What do you think has been like your biggest learning moment or lesson since you've started Pinnacle and started, being a founder and a leader?
Man, I think for me the biggest thing I've taken away is I've personally had to navigate pivoting roles and responsibilities and who I'm managing in leadership so
Yeah.
often, and just being okay with having to take on new skills and learn new things and dive full in steam ahead, right? So
Yeah.
I'm kind of unique in the sense that like Vincent is a world class salesperson. He's like grade A, would put him up against the best in the world, fantastic. Nick is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, genius operator, and I'm like somewhere in between. And so I've had to learn how to handle our marketing, our digital efforts, managing our rev ops, managing sales operations, building the whole Mexico operations team, learning Spanish, building out that whole division, right? I've pivoted my role so many times in the organization to try to like find myself as a pod from, the first decade of my career, I was just like the best truckload carrier sales guy, right? And I was
Yeah.
really, really good at that one thing and I could compete with anybody and run circles around them in that. And I've had to learn new skills and take on new challenges as a leader. And so part of that is just me accepting that as a part of the journey and kind of diving into being obsessed with whatever I've had to take on and grow with. So
I love that, man. That's from the standpoint of like what you told me from the beginning is like I had to learn Spanish, very quickly. You like just the way you've had to take on so many different like aspects. Like you said, like you have Vincent who does a lot of the sales and Nick who does ops, and like you're kind of that third person who does everything else in addition to helping Nick and helping Vincent, and so your role is so crucial, but also like you have to learn how to take on those different roles, how to delegate, and also how to like lead from as you're trying to build yourself and find yourself in these roles. So I mean, it takes a lot to do, man.
Yeah, it's been fun. I've had to learn how to learn and embrace the Swiss Army knife lifestyle.
It's like drinking through a fire hose, but you wouldn't have it any other way.
That's right.
So I want to ask you, as we're coming up on time, what's next for Pinnacle? Are you guys doubling down on more LTL, 3% to over 30% this year? Well, are you guys expanding more into full truckload? Are you expanding your sales headcount? What's next for you guys?
Yeah, I think for us it's pretty simple. Get LTL Flow into the hands of more docks, into shippers around the U.S. and North America, between Mexico, U.S., Canada. And as that grows, we will fall into other opportunities as well. You're always going to find truckload opportunities. Like
Oh yeah,
we still run into truckload opportunities all the time. And don't get me wrong, we still do really well and we could do great truckload wise, right? It's just from a marketing and go to market strategy perspective. I love being able to call shippers and talk about this new unique thing that we're doing that's free, as
yeah.
opposed to like calling them and telling them, hey, I have great truckload rates and we do great service. Right?
It's such a pattern disruptor, right? Because you're not calling, you're like, hey, it's Tyler from Pinnacle, and they're like, hey, yeah, we have a full truckload broker, blah blah. And you're like, no, listen, I've got this tool. It helps with LTL, and they're like, oh, like, huh? You're not trying to sell to me right now? Like, what's going on? And it's like, no, it's a free tool. Like, this can help you guys with any of your shipments from the LTL side, not just if you're booking stuff with us. So it makes that conversation quick or a lot easier. They're not
Yeah.
like they're not sitting there trying to like combat your sales tactics. You're actually just trying to have a very real conversation about what their pain points are, and ultimately it leads to potential loads and things like that in the future. But again, you're just trying to have those conversations, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. So get that into the hands of more shippers. And, if it's like some high tech Amazon warehouse and they have robots like auto packing things and measuring, then like it's not a fit. And
Yeah,
that's okay. Right. But getting that into the hands of more shippers. And again, we're not trying to be everything to everyone. Right. Our general rule is the more complex or messy your freight is or supply chain is, the more that we can make that boring, simple, repeatable, then the more that we're going to grow. Right? And that's
yeah,
basically our strategy. Um, and so getting that, LTL framework, playbook into the hands of more shippers, into the hands of more manufacturers, and growing kind of our consolidation services, the more that we're going to outreach this year. And my goal is really to ramp up our online marketing efforts. And we believe that like cold emailing and cold calling is going to get more and more ineffective as time goes on with AI and automated calling and all that good
yeah,
stuff. And so we're really like diving into two strategies, right? One is online marketing, digital marketing, having actual lead magnets and ads that can run to something that really gives that's really valuable. And the other side is having like door to door, outside sales, human interaction teams that can go out there and visit shippers and see them boots on the ground, right? And so those are kind of the two avenues that we'll be growing in for the upcoming year. And the goal is to have another year where we go up 47%. If we can do that every year, each year will be a win.
absolutely, man. Hey, I've got a couple quick rapid fire for you. Is there any like freight buzzword that's been going around over the last couple of years that you ban forever or that you just absolutely hate?
Man, that's so tough. I feel like AI is like the obvious answer, like
Yeah.
everybody's AI this, AI that, AI this. And it's not like a lot of times people are saying AI, but they really mean automation. And it's like,
Yes.
okay, well, like what are you actually using the AI for, right? Like, I
AI
think,
automation, Tyler.
yeah,
Come on.
AI automation. Like, what does that even mean, right? And so I think I wouldn't say that I ban them because like we use them, but you got
Yeah.
to be specific about how it's used and really be clear about it, right? Instead of just
Yeah.
some overarching theme that you're trying to get on your SEO buzzwords. And for me, like we still say LTO Flow streamlines the process just because I can't think of another word, but I don't really love the word streamlines because I feel like it's overused as well. So if you can think
AI,
of a
baby.
better one, let me know.
AI. And AI
Yeah.
is your process, man. Let's do it. No, what's maybe one tool or workflow, not LTL flow, that you cannot live without? And this can be
one.
personal. This can be freight. This can be something. If you have kids that you use for your kids, anything in your life that's like a tool or an app or a workflow that you're always like, I cannot live without this app.
Man, I'm like not perfect at it, but I try to stay off my phone and disconnected. I think
I love
I
that.
don't really have one I can't live without, but I do like talking to AI about strategies on how to like raise my children and who I want to be as a father.
I
So
love that. I like that.
it's not one I don't want to not live without it, but I made a custom GPT that tells my daughter's bedtime stories and creates like classic hero tales
That's
um,
really cool.
that have like a hero's journey.
Yeah.
So I have that, and then I've had a conversation about how to raise outliers and what are people that raise outlier children, what are the commonalities between them, and have been trying to see how we can implement that into our lives.
So hey, it's things that you could probably live without, but also has made your life probably a little bit easier. You don't have to do as much like of the actual initial digging and research. You can let GPT do that for you, and then you can do the rest of the diving yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Just like enabling it, and it's really helpful to get that like kickstart off on like framing how I want to think about things
Yep.
as a starting point. Yeah.
Are you more of a coffee, energy drinks, or tea kind of person?
I am more of a coffee guy. I used to be a classic Frapro energy drink guy every day, but I'm trying to lean off of the caffeine. And so right now
Tough.
I am a 1 in the morning latte kind of guy. We have a nice espresso machine that we put in the office. So I make a
Heck
nice
yeah.
espresso every morning, and that's how we started off.
What kind of espresso machine? I have a Breville sitting about 12 feet away from me.
Yeah, yeah, it's a Breville one that's got the whole, the
With the
grinder in it and
grinder
the
on top.
station.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that whole workflow setup. At home, we have the grinder split out like differently, which I actually like better. I
Yeah.
like the grinder being its own because then you can like adjust
You
how
can
many
dial it
grams
in more.
exactly. You can dial it
Yeah.
in. And so my wife has loved that, but I was like, are we really doing this? But she stopped buying Starbucks, so I'm
Yeah.
actually net positive on the investment into the nice Breville grinder and espresso machine. So. I will take that all day.
No, that's so. It's funny you said that. That's literally the reason I bought mine was during COVID. Starbucks was closed a lot more, and my fiance at the time, Allie, she now my wife, she loved Starbucks, and I was like, okay, why don't we just like make them at home? Like it's costing us $6 now, like $8 or $9 of coffee. We'll just make them at home, and like $600 investment 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it's paid for itself so many times over now. Um,
Oh
I,
yeah.
I I couldn't go back. And I feel I used to be a big energy drink person. I've kind of go back and forth because I find the more coffee that I've drank over the years, it feels like the less it wants to work. So sometimes I throw an energy drink in there to change it up, do a little pattern disruption to my body.
Yeah, spruce it up a bit. Yeah, man, take 1 or 2 days off a week if you can. That makes a huge
I
difference. And just get
try
that build-up.
I try and then I get a really bad headache all day. I'm
Yeah,
I'm deep in the caffeine, man. I'm deep in the hole.
I get it, man. I've done the same. But yeah, deal with the headaches for like a week if you can. That's all you
Yeah.
need. And then you'll reset and it won't be a thing anymore. Then you can do
Maybe I'll
one day off. But there
maybe
is that initial pain.
I might do it during like Christmas week or something like that, where I can like take some time off and it's
Perfect.
not as big of an idea. Last question I got for you: are you still a sports guy? Do you have like a favorite team that you still watch all the time, or are you all in on working?
I mean, I'm all in on working, but I am still a sports guy. So,
Love it.
still doing fantasy, still love football. I'm a diehard Cardinals fan and Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. So, I've got kind of a long story about the Bucks. I don't know if we have time for, but
I've got the
um,
time if you've got the time.
yeah. So my son's name is Brooks,
Yeah,
and first game I can remember watching as a kid was the Bucks versus the Raiders in like the classic 2002 Super Bowl,
yeah,
2002 2003. One of the best defenses of all time. He's a big
yep.
defensive guy. So my uncle worked at Pinnacle High School, and at the time, before the stadium was built, whoever was facing the Cardinals would come practice at their new facility. So the Bucks came there, and I got to go meet the whole team. I got to meet Chucky. I got a signed Derek Brooks jersey, number 55, which is
That's
was
awesome.
my number in high school, and I got a picture of him like signing it on my back as a kid when I was probably 9 or 10. And so, um, yeah, it's number 55. And so my son's name was always going to be Brooks. he was born in February, and that month he was born here in Arizona. Brooks Koepka came back from injury at the Waste Management Open, his first
That's
tournament
awesome.
back after like having back surgery. He chipped it in on 17 to win in here, Waste Management Open. And that same month happened to be the Super Bowl with
Yep.
Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Do you know what Super Bowl it was?
I don't remember the number.
It was Super Bowl 55.
55.
And
Nice.
so Tom Brady came and led the Bucks to win the Super Bowl number 55. And before my son was born, in his room was a 55 Brooks jersey with it signed on his with that picture of me having it signed. So
I love that,
um,
man.
crazy cool sports story. And so because of that, I will forever be a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. Although I still love the Cardinals and root on the Cardinals. I hate people that don't root on the. We have an issue with that here because everybody's a transplant where they don't root on the Cardinals, even though they lived in Arizona for 25 years and left Chicago when they were 2. So
Right. No, I understand that. I'm a big Chicago sports guy, but I've been in Houston for 6 years. I still root for Houston to be good just because I'm here. But man, those Tampa teams were good back in the Super Bowl days in the early 2000s. I think that team had Warren Sapp on it, if I'm not mistaken.
dude, yeah, Warren Sapp, Simeon Rice, John
Yeah,
Lynch,
man.
Derek Brooks, Ronnie Barber. You're talking like one of the top 3 defenses of all time. It was world class.
Dude, it was I remember specifically watching some of those games, and yeah, it was just such an insane defense. And yeah, I remember some of those like early, like the Rams Super Bowls too, like the early 2000s. Yeah, man, or in the Rams Stadium and stuff. I mean, man, those were the days of football. I missed
Yeah.
the Warren Sapp days for sure.
Yeah, defenses could actually play defense, and it wasn't super hard to not tackle the quarterback the right way or hit somebody the right way or come over the middle. I mean, the game was a little different for sure.
Totally different. I mean, man, those were the days. And I think that wasn't Mike Tomlin like a coach on that team, like I think he was a defensive backs coach for Tampa.
Yeah, I think so.
Not shocked at all.
Yeah. Epic.
No, that's awesome. And Tyler, I really appreciate you joining me today, man. I know we're a bit over time. Where can people reach out if they want to learn more, if they just want to talk to you and pick your brain about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, mainly on LinkedIn. So just find me on LinkedIn. Tyler Harper, or this is Tyler Harper. It's hard. I have, a classic name, so I can never get just my
Tyler
name
Harper.
on the. Yeah, I can never get on any socials. So I'm mainly on LinkedIn. I don't really do much other social media except for manage our company pages. So you can find me there and online on our website at pinnacleteam.com.